First of all, I'd just like to say this is really cool.
Look, can we just talk about something else, please?
Since it's already quiet, I guess we might as well start the team meeting.
Greetings, little big leaguers. Wherever you're listening or watching, if you're counting at home, this is episode 8. And I know what you're thinking. The number 8 is extremely significant. And you're probably asking yourself, didn't Justin Upton wear number 8 for the Tigers back in 2016 and 2017? Well, of course he did. And so this week's episode is officially sponsored by Justin Upton. Now, to reflect on last week's episode quickly, we traveled deep into the universe for another round of Hawking's Stat of the Week. We then got updates from inside the LBFL, chatted through the implications of trading in a fantasy baseball dynasty league, and we capped off the episode by walking through the top 5 MLB teams by winning percentage, which included yours truly, the Detroit Tigers. Now this week, it's all about the Little Big Fantasy League, and alluding once again to the great Elvis Presley. If you're looking for trouble, you came to the right place. With close and exciting matchups from this past week, a large gap in the standings from top to bottom, and another blockbuster fantasy trade, we're here to bring you up to speed on all of the latest beef amongst the team owners. Plus, stay tuned as we hear from several league members as they preview the fantasy matchups for this upcoming week. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Good night and ready to kick off another good fantasy week.
Amen.
Most definitely. Rolling right into our first topic, the Week 5 matchups, and eventually the updated standings. So, looking at the top score from this past week, it's none other than the Stephen Hawkings with a clean 813.90. JD remains undefeated. There's not enough to say about what JD has been able to do, winning every single matchup so far this season. Obviously, Joe, he's been quite the threat.
That he has. He's been able to knock down every team he's come against. Curious to see how long it'll carry on for. Hoping until the next time I face him.
Yeah, just some brief thoughts there on your team's success, JD. Who's kind of the main driving force of that machine that is the Stephen Hawkings?
Yeah, I think it's a collection of guys. I know Cal Raleigh's been off to a huge start this year. Picked up Soderstrom there. He's producing. Bregman's been a top 10 player. Shohei. Soto's picking up. Pitching wise, it's come here and there. We talked about Hunter Green multiple times. Reese Olson's heating up. So pitchers are doing fine, but yeah, I think I've got some strong offensive guys too. So it's working out my way so far. Sometimes the cookie crumbles that way. So hopefully that continues. We shall see this upcoming week, as we'll discuss later. But yeah, happy where I'm at.
Yeah, solid win against Riztopia, who moves down in the standings there. But a nice week for JD, as we mentioned, picking up the win and staying undefeated. Now, our second place finisher from this past week, he's listed up here with a new team name. Dare I say it, the Lenzini's Sundresses. Of course, the former Detroit Mariners, the league commissioner, John, throwing some shade at Joe. We will get into that a little bit later. The Lou Collins Heartthrobbers, the third place finishers, losing by less than a point. And let's just say it was quite heartbreaking for me. But before we talk about the end of the matchup and the final result, let's take a quick look at a midweek update that I provided live from Harson's Island on Thursday.
What's going on, little big leaguers? I am out here on beautiful Harson's Island right now. It is for now a calm Thursday afternoon. As you can see, some ominous gray clouds looming above me. And I just wanted to provide just a midweek update right now in my matchup against John's team. Of course, the Detroit Mariners, a very beatable team, as Joe has quoted in several episodes so far this year. I am currently projected to lose to John right now, and he is ahead of me in the matchup. Quite honestly, I'm a little antsy. I'm thinking about possibly dropping Devin Williams and making a move for a starting pitcher, but I feel like right now it's just time to hold. It's time to see if hopefully my team can power through. A couple guys can step up for me late in the week here heading into Thursday, and hoping to turn things around so that I can end up beating the Mariners. So hopefully the luck is on my side, and as always, let's go Lou Collins Heartthrobbers.
All right. So after seeing that clip, obviously for me at that point in the week, I'm a little antsy. I'm a little bit uncertain. I'm not sure kind of where I'm headed. And I ultimately decided I'm going to hold on Devin Williams. I'm going to keep him. I did end up making a couple moves to try to give my team a boost. One was a future move, which was for Shane Bieber to stash him away on the injured list. That one I had a feeling might come back to bite me because I could have picked up a catcher to replace Salvi Perez. He was out for a couple days, day to day, or I could have grabbed a reliever or a starting pitcher. I did end up grabbing Jose Quintana. He had his worst start of the year, so that was a little bit disappointing. But ultimately, that's the way that it goes sometimes. I didn't have, quite honestly, a whole lot of confidence at that point in the week, and I did what I could.
Yeah, I mean, I think when a matchup is going the way it was for you, and it's going to end up being a close matchup, everybody's going to have the same thoughts run through their head. How can I get that quick boost to my team? How can I, make up this ground? Because I had the same thoughts in my matchup, which we'll cover in a little bit. But I think ultimately the Shane Bieber move was a good one, and I think keeping Devin Williams was also a good move for you. I think it's going to benefit you more in the long run. I think Devin Williams is probably going to be better than most of the starting pitchers you could have grabbed, and I think Shane Bieber as a future move is a nice stash for you on the IL there.
Now, I will say, ladies and gentlemen, do not forget about your stash, because a move that I could have made to avoid using an ad for this week, I could have promoted Tomoyuki Sagano. He didn't have the best start, but he still would have gotten me enough points to win. So don't forget about your stash is my PSA.
A really
That
good
is
point.
a good point.
Yeah. Hats off to Leo too on the Bieber pickup. That was earlier than I expected anybody to pick him up, so you definitely got him there. But yeah, it's a tough loss. It's kind of trying to manage and balance the short term versus long term. If you think you can win this week, which we're within range to win. So if I was within that range, I don't know if I would have made a move either. But you also sometimes really want to beat the person you're playing, so it's difficult when you get antsy like that. So we're
Yeah,
all kind of
definitely.
get through that at some point.
I will say the Bieber move is also a jab at John, because he used to have Shane Bieber on his team. Like, he got off to that really hot start last year, had a couple of nice starts. I think he ended up on the year averaging like over 50 points because he only made like 2 starts, but he was on John's team, so I think it is quite fitting that I was able to pick him up in the week that I played against him. Now, on the other hand here, let's take a look at John, who's also going to provide what was at that time a midweek update.
Leo and I are locked in a nice little revenge match here of the championship game from last year. Thinking back to that last year matchup in the championship game, it came down to Sunday Night Baseball. We each had a Philadelphia Philly. So it came down to 2 Philadelphia Phillies. It was Bryson Stott for the Lou Collins Heartthrobers, and it was JT Realmuto for the Detroit Mariners. Levi had a 3-point edge going into the final game. Bryson Stott gets on base, steals a base, scores a run. The rest is history. Leo ends up on top. In our revenge match this week, it also comes down to 2 players from the same team, in my opinion. It comes down to Riley Green and Tarek Skubal. Riley Green has been a thorn in my side this entire week. Couple home runs in Houston. Just went 4 for 4 yesterday. But I got the ace in the hole. I got Tarek Skubal, a West Coast kid going back to the West Coast. against the Angels tomorrow night. I truly expect a 45 to 55 point fantasy performance from Tarek Skubal next week. It's high standards, but that's what happens when you're an ace. You're going to the West Coast. The Angels have been up and down a little bit this year. The offense is fine, but Tarek Skubal's another beast. If he can drop that 45 plus points for me tomorrow night, then I've got a really good feeling about the Detroit Mariners coming out on top. But if he can't bring that performance, I think Riley Green's going to be the dagger for the Detroit Mariners this week.
All right, so JD, after seeing that clip, John mentions a couple Phillies there with Stott and Real Muto, a hint at last year's championship matchup. It's one of the reasons why I've stuck with Bryson Stott. You know, he plays hero for Real in the postseason for the Phillies in the past, and he kind of plays hero for me last year in the championship. But pretty cool that both of us had two really good Tigers players going up against each other head-to-head this week in Skubal and Riley Green.
Yeah, it was cool, and they both had great performances this week. Got to watch a few of those games, especially Riley in that ninth inning. That was pretty sweet. So it's fun to watch. I'm sure John was happy to get a little revenge on you this week. It's kind of a rematch of the championship, and it came down to the wire just like that one did. So it's got to feel good for him. But yeah, it's still kind of those like anxious feelings, and yeah, got the rivalries coming up. So it's good stuff.
Now, in this clip, as we saw Joe, John quotes that he expected between 45 to 50 points for Tarek Skubal. In your mind, is that a reasonable goal for Tarek at that point going up against the Angels for him to put up that large quantity of points?
I mean, 45 to 50 for a pitcher is it's a lot. I've had some good pitching performances out of my guys this year, and so I know what it takes to get that, and it's really pretty much involving allowing no runs, very few hits, and racking up the Ks. So I think Skubal is definitely, anytime he steps on the mound, there's a chance he could go off for those numbers. I think it's a little high, um, but I think it is what it is, and I think Skubal has the ability to K guys so easily and make them look like fools, like he did, Zach Neto after allowing the home run to him. So I think it's reasonable, but on the higher end of likely, or the higher end of unlikely, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Riley Green ended up having a fantastic week. A shout out to him for becoming the first major league player to hit 2 home runs in the ninth inning, which to me is an unbelievable stat. He even gets his own Tops Now card as a result. Now, I'm a little salty. I'm not gonna lie. After this matchup, that was a tough one. Like that is a total like needle to the heart situation for the heartthrobers there. So let's take a clip of me from earlier today and show you that.
Am I over the loss to John this past week as I'm sitting here on Monday? Absolutely not. I'm heartbroken. The heartthrobers could not pull through. I'm not going to go around playing the blame game. I, had multiple opportunities there in late innings of the Cardinals game for Arenado and the Braves game for Albies to do something for me, to draw a walk, to hit a bloop single to the opposite field, but it didn't happen. There's so many factors from throughout the week that when you look at the matchup, sure, it came down to the last day, but at the same time, there was an opportunity for 7 days for guys to pull through. I made some questionable decisions on who to sit versus start in some other days, particularly going back to Saturday when I had both Albies and Bichette on the bench and both hit home runs. And that's the type of stuff that happens when you have bench players. It's going to happen once in a while. You got to have at least 1 or 2 bench bats. I'm not over the loss yet. I'm definitely disappointed in the heartthrobers, but credit to the Detroit Mariners, who seem to keep changing their name.
So clearly, JD, I'm heartbroken here. I wasn't able to get the points that I needed for Arenado and Albies. there was some late night banter going on between me and John via text. And at that point, I still had, I think, 3 at-bats maybe combined out of those 2. John was thinking he was going to lose, and I was thinking I was going to lose. Uh, my intuition served me correct. They weren't able to pull through. But like I said, I don't want to get caught up too much on the final day of the performance. This is a full week-long matchup. You've got 7 days to rack up the points. So you can't get too hung up on just the Sunday.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts after that loss, and I haven't experienced that yet this season, so I don't know what it's like. I gotta be reminded. But yeah, it hurts and you feel like you could have made one decision here that was different than another. Maybe you benched a guy and you should have started and he hit a home run. That's like the worst feeling ever when you make that wrong decision in hindsight. Yeah, and so, but that's, sometimes it is that luck of the draw a little bit, or, it can just, that's just how it rolls sometimes. I don't know. You play the players you play because you think they're going to do well that day, and then they don't. So it's like, that's baseball.
Exactly what I did on Saturday with Bichette and Albies, as I mentioned in that clip, and John did the same thing with Jackson Holiday on Sunday. So in that sense, it kind of evens it out. A lot of close matchups in the league this past week, I should say. Let's shift our focus to Tom and Joe's matchup. So first, let's take a look at a clip of Joe at that point, a close matchup midweek, but Tom's team pulling through. At that point, he was actually leading the league in scoring. Take a quick look.
Well, Tom's putting together a hell of a week. I mean, got about 400 points, most points in the league scored as of Thursday here, the 1st of May. He's had some great pitching performances, as well as some great batting. I mean, Freddie Freeman's already got about 50 points on the week. Mark Vientos had one really big game that's kind of helping him through it. So just got to hope my pitchers can crawl back into it, and hopefully we'll secure the dub on Sunday. Who knows?
All right, so Joe, at the end of that clip, you quote, "Who knows? Like, who knows what's going to happen next?" At that point in the week, you had to be a little bit antsy against a team in the barrel-aged rye guys who maybe haven't had the season they wanted. He's still kind of, Tom is kind of still getting his feet wet, feeling out the scoring and the format of this league, but it had to make you a little bit antsy midweek with Tom really off to a strong start.
Yeah, I mean, I believe we had talked about it last week on the podcast, saying Tom is definitely a team to watch out for and to not mess with. And boy, did I find that out this week. I mean, he jumped out to an early lead on me, and it felt like the whole week I was just trying to crawl back. He had great performances early in the week from Freeman and Vientos, and they were really scaring me. And I ended that clip saying, "Who knows?" because I could have seen it going either way. I happy with the outcome, but it could have gone either way for sure.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Now let's hear from Tom, who was unable to join us for tonight's episode. He was on the fringe. He almost joined us, but let's hear from his first public appearance on the Little Big Fantasy League podcast.
So it's been a really tight week for me against Kerry Bonds, and it's currently Saturday afternoon, and the gap is shortened. I'm only up by about 2 points with games to be played on Saturday and Sunday. That being said, really appreciating all the effort my team has finally started to yield for me. They say April showers bring May flowers. Well, the barrel-aged boys are in bloom, and I hope that bloom continues the rest of this weekend, and I can pull the W off in the end.
All right, so Tom there making a little bit of a flower analogy. He mentioned that his team, what was the exact quote that I had down here? The barrel-aged boys are in bloom. And he also mentions that he was hoping to pull the W off. Now, that clip coming from a bit later in the week on Saturday, and that's when the matchup really tightened up.
Yeah, that's when I'm checking my phone what felt like every 5 minutes, just looking to see when the games were going on, what my guys are doing, what Higgs guys were doing. I'd click on team and I'd look and I'd be like, okay, I still got a couple guys to play today. I need a good performance out of this guy. And then I go to his team and I'm like, he's still got a couple more guys to play today, and they're probably going to have good weeks. So I was definitely looking back and forth the whole time, and it really was getting close at that point.
Yeah, and even closer on Sunday, with a couple games remaining. Let's hear again from Joe late night, as there was just a couple games left in the night, and the matchup was really coming down to it.
Well, it's Sunday night. 2 games left. The main one, Dodgers Braves. Right now, this is going to decide me versus Tom. Who's walking away with the dub here? I got a little bit of an edge on Tom. I got a little bit of a buffer, but he's got Dustin May pitching. So I just got to hope Dustin May gets rocked. He's already allowed 2 runs. Just got to hope it's more and they don't keep him in the game long. So really rooting for Austin Riley to hit another bomb because he already has one in the game. And hoping Mookie Betts shows up and hits a tank as well for me. So go those 2 players, Dustin May.
All right, so JD, here we see Joe. He mentions Austin Riley, who I don't know if he's still on the trade block. I'm assuming he's not because he's putting up some good fantasy points. But at that point in the game, as Joe mentioned, he had 1 home run. And at this point, Joe is maybe living on a prayer a little bit here. He got the strong performance from Kerry Bonds, Kerry Carpenter, that team name pulling through for him. But he's banking on Austin Riley for maybe that half court buzzer beater.
Yeah, Joe's praying for Austin for sure. Maybe he's happy he didn't trade him earlier this year at this point. I think Austin, we talked about him earlier in the earlier podcasts of just like how the contract that he was on and like how he wasn't producing and struggling with the Braves, and now he's kind of showing up a little bit more now. So yeah, Joe's at that point in the week is hoping and praying for more Austin Riley. So yeah.
Yeah, and pretty interesting too that Tom had Dustin May on the mound as well. Just like when you have that many players involved at the end, and you're watching your own players and you're watching the other team's players, and it really can get like fun. I mean, this is, I feel like, why we play fantasy baseball. Now, Joe, playing a little bit of Predictaball here, America's favorite board game. If you've never played it, it is a smashing hit. So if you can find yourself a copy of Predictaball, definitely get a copy. But let's take a look as Joe plays some Predictaball here, banking on Austin Riley.
Ladies and gentlemen, Austin Riley with his 2nd homer of the night. I believe I just put away Tom. I believe this matchup is over. This is me right after he hit a home run. I'm pretty pumped, but I got to keep my emotions in check because anything could still happen, but I believe I just took away this matchup.
All right, so this clip coming just moments after Austin Riley hits his 2nd home run of the night. And this is a direct quote that I got from Tom tonight. He said, "I want Joe to know so bad he needed, in all caps, incredible games from Kerry Bonds and Austin Riley to beat me." A response there, Joe. What are your thoughts?
He is 1,000% right. Without those 2 players on Sunday, I don't beat Tom. I don't walk away with it. I hadn't turned on the Braves Dodgers game. I was a little late to it, and I had gotten the notification on my phone that Riley had hit his first home run, and I was like, okay, perfect. I'm like, that's negative points for Dustin May, and that's points for me. It was a 2-run shot. I'm like, all right. I had a little bit of a lead on Tom. I was feeling a little comfortable. So I turn on the game and I'm watching it, and Austin Riley steps up to the plate again with a runner on base and smacks his 2nd home run of the night. And right there, I knew it. I knew I had the week. I didn't want to get ahead of myself, but I was pumped because I knew I just walked it off because Dustin May wasn't going to come back from that. He wasn't going to get enough points. The only one I was a little worried about maybe was he still had in the other game Mark Vientos going. He had a bit of a hot week, so I didn't want him to carry it on. So I still had a little nerves, but at that point, my my spirit was flying high. Figured I had it, and he's right. I did need an incredible week from those two players. Um, I think the other thing he forgot to add to this quote was um, an incredible games from Kerry Bonds and Austin Riley and Dustin May to forget how to pitch to beat me. And it's true. Dustin May left two absolute hangers to Austin Riley, and he put him over the fence.
Now, why was I thinking that Dustin May is on Carter's team? Was there some sort of blockbuster trade that went down recently?
There must have been because I was thinking the same thing. I had actually, I believe, on last week's episode, had talked about Dustin May being a potential comeback player of the year, coming back from the injuries that he suffered. So I think that in this game probably sailed out the window pretty quickly. But yeah.
Well, if you do want to hear more about that blockbuster trade, I know we're about 20 minutes into the episode here. Be sure to stick around later in the episode as Carter will join us for that. So don't click off of YouTube quite yet. Keep listening to us talk about our Little Big Fantasy League because this is good stuff. It really is. Now, going back to Joe's quotes here, he says, quote, "I believe I just put away Tom. I believe this matchup is over." But he comes back to later say, quote, "I'm pretty pumped, but I've got to keep my emotions in check." JD, I mean, we're not even in the postseason yet, and we're getting all antsy about these crazy matchups going on, close matchups. I mean, this really shows you, though, that every single week, it's kind of, for a lot of teams that are going for it, it's kind of do or die.
Yeah, I mean, you want to win every week. You want to stack those dubs, and everyone counts as we go down each week. Every single one of them counts. So it's like, especially like if you look at your record, like, oh, I need to win this week because you're looking ahead to other weeks. Like, I have an easy appointment next week or a difficult opponent the following week, and you're trying to get on a roll again. Yeah, I mean, like, I get antsy because it's like, yeah, I want to win. It's like you want to win. It's a competitive league, and yeah, we're all competitors. So
Definitely. So some great matchups. The last two matchups that we have not mentioned yet, Kyle was able to beat Justice with Schwellenbach Enthusiast picking up that win against the Justice League. And then Walt continues his strong start bye week, beats Otani's Interpreters in Cade. A lower score for Walt this week, but he does now hold sole possession of second place as we look at the updated league standings. As we mentioned, the Stephen Hawking's, of course, in first place at a perfect 5-0. That 1,000 percentage looks real nice up there on the board. Bye week in sole possession of that second place, and all at 3-2. The next few teams that I will list here: Luke Collins, Heartthrobbers, myself. Dare I say it again? I can barely get it out of my mouth. It's such a brutal team name. The Lanzini Sundresses.
Ooh la la!
I mean, just stick with your team name. Come on, John. What are we doing here? Kerry Bonds, also 3-2. Schwellenbach Enthusiast and Ristopia. Looking at the bottom of the league here in 8th at 1-4, the Barrel Aged Rye guys potentially on the climb. And then two teams that have yet to get a win, Otani's Interpreters and the Justice League. Any thoughts on the standings overall? It is quite interesting to note that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams with a 3-2 record.
Yeah, definitely a lot of 3-2. I think we're going to see some teams kind of fall below average and the other teams kind of pick it up above average. I think we're going to see some separation here starting soon. But my team to watch out for again is Tom's team. I went up against him last week, and he's really turning that team around. So definitely my team to look out for in the coming weeks.
yeah, it's interesting that we have so many 3-2 teams, like you said, Leo, and like we'll see who, pulls ahead there and who doesn't. Like you said, Joe, kind of separation there. But yeah, I think it also just goes to show, even if you look at the points, like I don't have the most points like within the top 5 teams there. So it's like it kind of is like how your team plays that week, and which you can get lucky and get hot in one week and then be not as good, but the team you're playing isn't as good, so it doesn't matter. I feel like that's kind of how it's played out for me a little bit. So it's an interesting dynamic, but
Yeah, it's difficult to be consistent. It's difficult to align the stars as far as like your starting pitchers and who to play versus who to sit when you've got those extra bench bats, and when to use those transactions to make a move, or even for some team owners in our league this year, when to make a trade, when to make a deal, and maybe kind of go for it as we see that, Carter is kind of in that win now mode, which again we will talk about shortly. Any other final thoughts on the standings?
No, just ready for another week of matchups, and yeah, get right into it.
The league is rolling right now. It is very much so alive in many different ways. Exciting to hear from some league members in some video clips. Appreciate everyone that sent in those submissions from this past week. And definitely stay tuned as you'll see more, including his first public appearance in Cade, as he will eventually preview his matchup coming up next week with Justice, looking for that first win. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. Stay tuned as Orange Ninja himself joins us live from the hills of Standish, Michigan.
We think it's important for new guys like Justin Upton to get a real feel for the organization. And the best way to do that is with a roommate who understands the history and legacy of the team.
Man, this is creepy. Do you ever blink? I gotta talk to Skip about this.
Well, that was odd, but thank you, Justin Upton, I guess. And thank you once again for being the sponsor for episode 8 of the Little Big Fantasy League podcast. We'd like to welcome in from the hills of Standish, Carter Rogers.
Roger.
Joining us here for episode 2. Welcome back, Orange Ninja.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back after missing a few weeks there, so glad to be here.
Definitely. And we caught you at the right time because breaking news, the Little Big Fantasy League has yet another blockbuster trade. This time, 6 players involved, 3 players going to Riztopia and 3 going to the Barrel Aged Rye Guys. That is quite the swap overall here as we take a look at the graphic. Riztopia getting NL Cy Young Triple Crown 2024 winner Chris Sale, acquiring his Orioles legend, the unstoppable Cedric Mullins. I can't escape him. Dylan Cease from the San Diego Padres, with the Barrel Aged Rye Guys in return receiving some young guns in Dustin May, Michael Harris, not Jr., the second, and Ranger Suarez. All right, so Carter, going to go to you first on this. This deal was being worked on for a while. I know there were some 1-for-1 offers with some of these players going back to last week and a couple weeks ago. So how did you finally strike up this deal with Tom?
Actually, this deal is really close to what was sort of originally offered by Tom there. He sent me a trade that looks very similar to what was finally accepted between both of us. But yeah, there was I think it was last Friday or so. We were just hashing out like all day long during the workday, just kind of going over different trade ideas, different guys on our teams. Really, like the hallmark though between both of us is that he wanted Michael Harris. That was like his biggest player that he wanted, and my biggest player that I wanted was Dylan Cease on his team. So really, every trade deal that we were trying to hash out included both of those guys. And so we were talking about some 1-for-1s, and then I realized that to do like sort of even trade, I'd have to do like either a 1 for 2 or 2 to 3, or else I'd have to like drop some players, and then I ended up in the end dropping a pitcher there. But yeah, it was fun hashing out the ideas with him. I'm glad that he was so open-minded about it, like hearing me out about my trades and him shooting me his ideas for his trades. Yeah, we had a really healthy conversation there over text, but really ultimately, my goal was to bolster my pitching. I felt like last year, just my pitching was a really big hole in my team. And I really didn't have I felt like I didn't have an ace at all on my team, where I felt like everyone else in the league kind of had at least one ace, if not a few, on their teams pitching wise. Um, and I already noticed some cracks in that going into this season as well. Like I started off okay, but yeah, this last week and the week before, like pretty much just this last week against JD, my pitching was like completely neutral in points because I had so many bad starts that it just wiped away the good ones. So I knew I needed to do something on the pitching front, so that was sort of my biggest goal. And I knew out of all the teams in the league that Tom was most accepting to like trade offers and stuff. So yeah, try to hash out a deal with him, and glad it went through. And I'm glad on his side, he has a bit of an aging team that he got. And so I'm glad that, he was able to get Michael Harris from me, a really young player that, he'll be on his team for as long as he's in the league, basically. And a few younger pitchers from me as well. So
Well, as Tom quoted several weeks ago, the barrel-aged boys are open for business, so it definitely helps to have a trade partner that's not only willing to consider a trade, but I think to have kind of more of that open dialogue like you guys had over the last couple weeks. Some really good insight there, Carter. Now, before we really get into discussing this, as you mentioned before, Tom was going to join us for tonight's episode, but was unable to do so. But I got a quote directly from him tonight. He said, quote, "The deal was absolutely to get younger. Harris is younger than Mullins. Suarez and Cease are even. And May is 9 years younger than Sale," with 2 exclamation points. And he said, and I'd like to hear a response from this part, Carter, not just younger, better too. And I believe this trade will yield that.
okay. I mean, definitely on the Sale side, just because how old he is. I knew I was only getting 2 years max out of him, probably. I'm hoping for a good year by him this year, then hopefully maybe another year next year. But I mean, he's 36. Definitely, that age is gonna get to him sooner than later for sure. But I mean, Dylan Cease is only 29, so that's what I was really trying to shoot for him there. I think that's a really good age dynasty wise for a pitcher. I mean, he's got a couple more years ahead of him there that he should be in his prime. I know he started out not too hot this April, but all the underlying metrics look good, under the hood. He seems healthy and stuff, so I'm hoping he turns it around here pretty quickly for the rest of the season there. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be angry if Dustin May turns out to be a superstar or anything. I mean, I think it was a good fair trade overall. I think it benefits both of our teams there for what we were looking for. So yeah, I think it was, in my opinion, I didn't think one side was better than the other, and you guys can talk about that too. But I thought it was a fairly decent trade.
I think one interesting note here is that you're looking at 6 guys that all have had success in the big leagues, but also have somewhat of an injury history as well, which I think puts it in a unique situation. Now, I want to go to JD here first, and then we'll go to Joe, and then I'll finish it off. Let's go ahead and play Who Won This Trade. You have to make a choice here. I know it's early. I know there's a bunch of things to consider, but just looking at it on paper here, who is your winner of the trade?
So I think I think there's another question you have to ask in order to figure that out. Like if you're thinking about a win now trade, I think Carter edges it out a little bit. If you're looking for longer term winning, then I'd say Tom probably wins it. But that's how I kind of viewed this trade, similar to Tom, like with the ages. Michael Harris is 23, Ranger Saros is 29, Dustin May 27, and then Carter gets Sale, who just came off of a heck of a year. He's 36. Cease and Mullins are kind of in their prime right now, especially with Mullins playing really well so far this year. So I'm gonna take the edge with Carter, but I mean it could really go either way. I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, I think looking at the trade, um, if I had to pick, I would give the edge to Carter. I think Mullins provides a little more than Michael Harris currently does. I think Cease is going to give you 9 out of 10 times a better start than Ranger Suarez. And Chris Sale coming off that Cy Young year last year over Dustin May, who could have possibly lost him the matchup versus me. I got to give the trade to Carter. Tom definitely set out to make his team younger, and he 100% accomplished that. I don't think the trade was bad for Tom by any means. I think both sides have advantages, but I am going to give the slight edge to Carter here.
I'm gonna have to agree with both of you as well. I think Carter is the winner of this trade. You know, we talked about it a little bit earlier too. I think Carter, it's pretty evident that you're sort of in this win now mode after just missing the playoffs last year, trying to really improve your pitching staff. I mean, Dylan Cease is a fantastic pitcher to acquire. I think, you know, he's got that proven success, but he has a ton of upside as well. I think Chris Sale's bound to turn his season around pretty quickly here. He's actually coming off a pretty solid start in which he had 10 strikeouts. So, you know, at the end of the day, he's still a, you know, multiple time Cy Young winner and a potential future Hall of Famer that you're adding to your staff, even in his later years, as you mentioned, maybe only being able to get a couple of years out of him. I still think that it's worth it. I do like the move for the barrel aged rye guys to acquire Michael Harris II. I think he's got a ton of upside and really being the youngest player within this deal. Personally, I haven't really been super high on Ranger Suarez. He had the one good breakout season with Philadelphia, but I guess I just am not super hopeful on him over the next few years here. And Dustin May, you know, before the season, he was a free agent. So, you know, he's just had that track record of so many injuries. And, you know, he can be a big time strikeout pitcher. He can be a guy that wins a lot of games because he's on a really solid team with the Los Angeles Dodgers. But I really think, quite honestly, that Carter is the clear cut winner here. From more of a long term perspective, I definitely see what you're saying, JD. I mean, with Tom getting a lot younger, and Joe mentioned it too, he definitely accomplishes that goal. I just don't know if those were the right players to go after at this time. And then you see that Carter also had to make a move in dropping a pitcher, which was Zach Hampel lookalike Jack Leiter. You know, he is now on the free agent market. I don't think he's on waivers at this point at all. And I know Leiter was being thrown around in some of those trade talks to Carter, but it really just shows you that there still are pitchers with that young potential still on the market. So I think there's always room on the market to try to snag a guy that's younger. Easier to do at the beginning of the season, but still doable.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of cool to hear most of you guys think I had the slight edge there with the trade. I mean, I not really in, I guess I never considered myself in a win mode phase, so I guess Tom maybe would take the edge in the long run there. My ultimate goal was basically to I was trying to be realistic this year, is that I made 7th out of 10th last year, and so my goal is to make 6th out of 10th this year. So that's sort of, if I make 6th, then I'm a happy guy. But yeah, if I made 7th again, that'll be rough. But no, yeah, I think it was a good trade overall. Yeah.
I do have a question for you, Carter.
Yeah.
So you earlier this season you traded for a young outfielder with Wyatt Langford, and then you traded away a young outfielder And I'm wondering how much of a sweetener was Mullins in this, being he's an Oriole and all of
Yeah,
that. Like, when did he come in, and when was that like, oh shoot, we got to get this done?
I actually yeah, that's a good question. I actually initially like during the day Friday, because Tom kind of kept pushing Cedric Mullins on me, and I kind of straight up told him, I'm not too interested in Cedric
Dude, I
Mullins,
can't escape
and
it.
we were kind of nearing a sort of 1-for-2 trade towards the end of the day there, and then all of a sudden in the evening there, Casas had like a pretty much career-ending injury. And I saw that happen. I saw the video and stuff. I saw what people were saying. And I'm like, I mean, you know what? If he could add Cedric Mullins to the deal, it'll save me from adding someone on the white. Like it'll save me from an ad this week or something if he just adds Cedric Mullins to the deal. And I looked at him more as like an extra. I don't know, like because he had picked him off the waiver too, and I can't see him putting up these numbers for the rest of the season. So he might get dropped down the line. But it was a nice like sort of cherry on top for the trade there. It was when Casas kind of went down. I sort of was able to just directly slot him in there where I had Casas on like the utility spot there. So yeah, that was a nice addition to the trade there when that injury happened.
And
With
if
Rangers,
you,
yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna say, if you think back to the beginning of the year, Carter, you and I were talking about trades, and one of the pieces I wanted from you was Casas.
Yeah.
So couldn't be happier right now that that deal didn't happen. Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
I
Yeah,
was
and
thinking about that
what
when
did I tell you, Carter? I told you to get
I
rid of
know.
Casas.
I know. I definitely should have listened to you 100%. I
I
got
was,
next time I gotta listen to Leo for sure. I don't know why I didn't.
I was super high on Casas before the year started, and I was definitely trying to get him from you. And when you wouldn't trade him, I kind of ended up backing off about it, and yeah, couldn't be happier that the deal did not go through.
Yeah. I mean, I was still holding on to him, hoping he was going to turn around. It seemed like his numbers he was just about to start. Yeah, what an unlucky thing by him. I mean, yeah, I don't. Did you guys watch the video at all of him getting injured? Yeah,
That was
I don't
tough.
know. It's tough to watch because it felt like he was barely moving and just
Yeah.
hit it the wrong way. Yeah.
What's also interesting about this deal too is you've got multiple players involved that were on free agents at one point. I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ranger Suarez was a free agent at one point, and you snagged him off the market, right, Carter?
Yep. At the beginning of the season last year.
So, Suarez, Cedric Mullins this year, Dustin May. I mean, there's half the players involved in this deal are free agent pickups, and I really think that it shows you how important it is to be able to make those right moves for your team, whether you're looking to add guys to actually be used on your roster or as pieces in trades later on too. So, it just is great to see the league making moves. This is now the fourth trade in Little Big Fantasy League history, and Carter joins the ranks of bye week and Walt in being now involved in half of the trades in league history.
Yeah.
So
I'm trade hungry.
yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, so I was happy it could take place for sure. It felt sort of good, just like the Wyatt Langford one. It's get a little buzz off of the trade.
Well, now we've had a trade in March, we've had a trade in April, and we've had a trade in May. And if I had to bank on it, I think there's going to be another trade this month. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw at least 4 to 5 more deals easily throughout the rest of the season.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's cool to see them happening a little bit more after I don't know, wasn't it just kind of one last year? Yeah. So it was pretty icy last year with the trade, so it's cool to see that kind of shake up this year a little more.
Yeah,
And
last year was the one trade that should have got vetoed. John should have stepped in, but he didn't. So we have that to blame on John, but not a big deal.
it's like I'm watching the YouTube short all over again. It's like I'm hearing an echo from that.
Deja vu.
Yeah, if you don't know, we do have YouTube Shorts now. There are 3 of them out there. Shout out to JD on the edits for those. I'm sure more to come on the YouTube Shorts and more to come in this episode as we will look ahead to next week's matchups. We've got some good ones, including a potential Rock'em Sock'em Robots matchup between the league treasurer and league commissioner. But right now, let's hear once again from Justin Upton, this week's league episode sponsor.
Hi, I'm Justin Upton with the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's not too late to get in the game and be counted in the 2010 census. If a census taker comes to your door, be a team player, answer the 10 questions. You'll be a winner in your hometown.
Thank you once again, Justin Upton. That is a great reminder for everyone who wants to be counted in the upcoming census. All right, so as we're now in segment 3 of episode 8, let's take a look at next week's matchups here. So here's what we got. We got the Lucon's Heartthrobbers that'll be facing off against the Schwellenbach Enthusiasts. We'll have Joe's team against John's team. We'll definitely get into that a little bit later. Tom and the Barrel Age Rye Guys will play against Ristopia. Bye week and the Stephen Hawking's clash in a first place versus second place matchup. And then it's the 2 teams that don't have a single win this year, the Justice League and Otani's Interpreters. Fellas, why don't we go to that matchup first? So again, we're looking at 2 teams with no wins here. It seems like somebody's got to come out on top here, swinging and finally get the monkey off their back.
Yeah, I think this is a classic case of, well, you both you guys can't lose. I mean, it's a matchup. Definitely 2 teams that have just underperformed so far, and one of them's going to come out on top. Hopefully one of them does, unless they tie.
I know that was my thought too, is like this could end in a tie, theoretically. I mean, look at John and I's matchup was less than a point difference, so who's to say that they can't both finish with exactly 440.3 points?
You were being generous. I was going to say 250 to 250.
Yeah, what's the over-under on this for total?
5 points.
No, like total between the 2 of them. What's the over-under points? You know,
like realistically, are we talking?
Realistically, yeah.
Between the 2 of them, I'll say like 1,200.
Yeah, I was thinking 1150.
I'm going with the under.
I'm hammering that. I'm putting the mortgage on the under in that one.
So, for this matchup, we try to get Cade on the podcast tonight. Unfortunately, he has his men's softball game, so some big responsibilities in that men's softball league. But let's hear from Coach Cade Cotney as he makes his first public appearance on the podcast.
What's up, everyone? Coach Cotney here, manager of Otani's Interpreters. It's been a tough season. Haven't kind of translated the game the way we wanted to this year, and so we're looking to figure out what other ways we can continue to perform. We've been hit with the injury bug a ton this year. I feel like I've got constant guys on the IL, mainly pitchers, bad performances from pitchers, and Charlie Morton, that guy got canned so quick, but one of the worst performances in fantasy baseball this year. Super tough. But what I got to say is we're going to be a breath of fresh air come the second half. I'm pushing for second half, get some of these guys off the IL, get my team back to fully healthy, and see what we can do. I know we've got a big matchup this week, kind of battle of the no-win teams. I'm just going to hopefully my guys stay healthy this week and we can put it on them. I know we're projected right now to win. I think we were projected in 2 other matchups so far this year, and we've seen how that has gone. So don't hold your breath, but Otani's interpreters are going to figure out a different language to attack everyone for the rest of the year. So Coach Cotney signing out.
All right, so clearly Cade, a struggling team right now, coming to us live from his pickup truck there. And Carter, he mentions a Baltimore Oriole and Charlie Morton kind of throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, I don't blame him either. All Orioles fans are completely throwing him under the bus. He's just been one of the worst pickups ever. Like, that cannot be understated. Like, just absolutely horrible. That game that he did against the Reds. What was it, like 24-2 or something? Just absolutely horrendous, giving up so many home runs. And then he had another start, I think, after that where he was not as bad, but super bad still. And so then the Orioles were like, okay, let's move him to the bullpen then, and still getting shelled there. So, so yeah, I don't blame him for that sentiment. He's been absolutely horrendous for the Orioles, and I feel bad for him that he picked him up, believing in him. I'm glad that he dropped him off the roster there.
Yeah, definitely. And Cade's had some bad luck. As he mentioned in the clip, that he's got, quote, constant guys on the IL. Now, JD, you know a thing or two about that this year. Somehow you're still 5-0. You've found your way to fight through injuries. What is kind of the key in your mind when you have, 4 or 5 guys on the IL, knowing that you only have limited IL spots? When is the right time to make a move and drop somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my mind, it's just about like trying to field a team that you could feel like can at least compete and win, you know? Like if I can get enough guys on my offense to have a full lineup and enough pitchers to, at least compete. And depending on like if the pitchers are hurt is where it kind of gets dicey, I think. Um, I think I can probably sit a guy or two on the bench if they're a hitter and I like them, and I want to keep them. Especially if my IL's full, which it is. um, then all sorts of other factors come in, like how long is the IL stint? Like, is it day to day? Are they gonna be back in a week, a month? Like, do I think I can win this week with these guys in the IL? Do I really want this win? So there's a lot of factors that go into it, I think. And just trying to put together, enough so you can compete and maybe win that week, and then also like play long term too. So I think it's it's an interesting balance, but I think you can do it.
Yeah, and I think his overall strategy is trying to play it a little bit more long term. Now, Joe, something interesting that Cade mentioned in the clip, he said, quote, "I'm pushing for the second half." I mean, to me, we're not even close to the second half of the season yet. Is he thinking maybe a little bit too long term, and maybe that's hurting him in the short term?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're 0-5, if you said you were pushing for the first half, then something went terribly wrong. And I think that everybody gets hit with the injury bug. Um, Everybody to a different extent, at least. But for this pushing for the second half here, I think at this point you're looking too far ahead, and quite honestly, I think you're getting out in front of yourself. If you think this team you have is gonna perform well in the second half without you making moves, then I think you're sorely mistaken. And I think it's gonna end up a lot like the first half, um, leading you to be probably more losses. I'd like to see him pick it up. I think he does show a genuine interest, and he wants to be good, and I think he will turn it around, and hopefully that'll be this year. But if not this year, then next year.
Well, the other thing too is it's probably hard going to sleep every night knowing that you traded your number one pick in the draft, which was Corbin Carroll, his first rounder. I mean, that's got to be tough thinking back to how that trade really came back to bite him. I mean, the return pretty measly. He ends up dropping Bobichette. He really likes this Tobias Myers guy on the Brewers, who to me was a complete no-namer before he was involved in that trade. But when you get rid of a superstar like that, then I think to a certain extent you have to be in somewhat of a rebuild mode. But it seems like there needs to be a little bit more urgency.
And that was the first trade that happened in the league that kind of slipped through the cracks and should have been vetoed and didn't get vetoed. A big ball drop from Commissioner. Ooh, Stindy.
Beef.
Just kind of sad if you ask me.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. We'll be watching this matchup closely here as I see Carter goes on mute with uncontrollable laughter. Can't quite keep it together. We've all had a fair share of laughter on this episode. So it's suddenly turning into some impractical jokers, I would say. On a more serious note, why don't we get into a real matchup? The number 1 team against the number 2 team. JD undefeated at 5-0, Walt with a 4-1 record, a very steady, solid second place team. So heading into the matchup this week, let's take a look at JD on his thoughts heading into this matchup.
Hello. It's currently week 6, and I need a haircut. I'm facing Walt this week, who's in second place, 4-1. I'm currently in first place, 5-0. It's going to be an interesting one this week. Hopefully competitive. I know I won't be getting 2 starts from Corbin Burns this week because he's got some inflammation. Might get some hitters back from the IL, so that could make things interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's just going to come down to who shows up, which players play well, which players don't, like it always does. So good luck to you, Walt. Hopefully it's a competitive one, and happy week 6, everybody.
All right, so JD mentions here it's going to be, pretty close matchup. He mentions that Burns has a little bit of inflammation going on, but might get some players coming back from the IL. And also, as the gentleman, King Arthur, that he is, he does wish Walt good luck. Now, JD, tell us a little bit more about the Corbin Burns situation and tell us about who you're looking to get off of the IL heading into this week.
Yeah. So Corbin was supposed to have a double start this week, but they sat him today. He was supposed to start today because of inflammation. He should be ready to go for his next start this week, so I'll at least get one from him. But that's a toughie. You lose a double start from Corbin. He hasn't been great this year, but I mean, even if it's like 15, 20 points, that can make a difference. So the other guy that was down, good old Merrill Kelly, he's back. He should be scheduled for this week as well. But the main guy I'm getting back this week is Royce Lewis. And Royce has been known for his roller coaster of a career. There are times when he hits like 5 home runs in a week, and there are times when he's on the IL, and that's basically his career. So maybe we get a Royce Lewis week this week. Who knows? But I'll be interested to see how he comes out. I also have Tovar and O'Neill, who may or may not be back this week. Probably not, if I had to guess, but I don't even know if I would start them if they were back. So probably we're leaning on Royce this week for a little wild card action today. But otherwise, I'm hopefully it's a competitive game. That'll make it interesting. And it's just going to be coming down to who plays better. And that's fantasy for you,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Royce Lewis can stay healthy. Taking a look at his baseball reference page right now, believe it or not, across 3 seasons, he has not played 162 games. He's played 152, so he's only 10 games short. But his 162 game average, according to baseball reference here, 35 home runs, 111 RBIs, and a 268 batting average. Good for a 126 OPS plus. Those are really good numbers. But yeah, with that injury history, the question is, will he be able to stay healthy?
Yeah, I mean, he's only like 25, so
Yeah.
still plenty of career left ahead of him, which is nice. But we'll see if my patience will hold out with Royce, I guess is the questions that I have to ask myself. So, but yeah, good luck, Walt, this week. I'm sure you'll give me a run for my money, and it'll be interesting.
He's kind of a metaphor for a Rolls Royce. Like you spend way too much to get it and you never end up using it. And he just sits in the garage and collects dust. Like that is Royce Lewis.
Couldn't have said it better.
Like it.
Vroom vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
All right, so we got JD's thoughts on this upcoming matchup. Should be a good one. I think it's definitely going to be, one of the top ones to track. How about we get Walt's thoughts as he makes his first public appearance? Walt, normally a Midwestern boy, is actually on the East Coast right now. A big shout out to him. He's been able to make it out to a New York Yankees game, and now he's got plans to head over to a Nationals game too. But let's hear from him on his thoughts on this matchup.
All right, it's bye week here. Currently sitting in second place. Have to play the Stephen Hawkings this week. It's going to be a big matchup. It's first place team, last undefeated one. But got a couple pickups this week. Picked up Sears, unfortunately the burger. Meister had to go down to the minors, but he's in our thoughts and prayers. It's going to be an interesting matchup and a tough one, but really glad Olsen pitched well yesterday and isn't only going once this week. And Stephen Hawkins have a lot of injuries, so fingers crossed it might be the week to catch him.
All right, so good to see Walt make his first appearance on the podcast here. And, I think he's got a little bit of confidence heading into this week. He mentioned JD's injuries. He said, fingers crossed, this might be the week to catch him. And so somebody has to dethrone King Arthur at the top of the Little Big Fantasy League standings.
Yeah, I mean that's true, and I think Walt at this point probably has one of the best shots to do it. He mentioned picking up JP Sears, who last year I actually picked up and had for a few starts there. I think he had maybe one or two good starts for me, and other than that, not much to write home about. But I think there's a potential boom there for him. He does have a point with JD's injuries, talking about how he has a chance to catch him. I think if anybody is going to do it against JD, you got to do it when his team is a little bit banged up. So we'll see how the outcome of 1 versus 2 goes.
How about Jake Berger?
Yeah, he mentions Jake Berger, definitely on the wrong side of that deal. Yohan Duran, of course, the piece heading over to Tom's team for Jake Berger, who now finds himself as a minor leaguer. And with that, I'd like to formally introduce our new Jake Berger home run tracker, as he is now officially a member of the Round Rock Express, the AAA affiliate of the Texas Rangers.
Cheeseburgers.
So, 3 home runs. Those are all in the majors. I looked at his MILB page, and he has not yet played a game for the Express. To give Carter the courtesy, we're not going to completely wipe the home run tracker and set him back to 0 just because he's in the minor leagues. We're going to keep this going all year round. If he gets his 40 combined in the minors and the majors, then your prediction could still come true. But Jake Berger is turning out to be quite the bust. I want to get Carter your thoughts on that.
I'm a full believer he could still hit 40 homers in the minor leagues there. I don't know. I'm hoping he could still turn it around here in the minors, just kind of blow up down there and make his way back into the majors there. He's still pretty young, and I think he could show himself and kind of tweak himself down in the minors, kind of like Spencer Torkelson. He had to get sent down, and then look at him now. So maybe we could get a Torkelson out of Jake Berger there in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair comparison. I mean, they're both playing first base, and even Torque in the minors played a little bit of third. I know Jake can play some third base as well. Might be a little bit different just because Jake is 29. I mean, the good thing for him is he's still below 30. I think he can still make his way back to the major leagues realistically, but it's definitely disappointing to see from a guy that's had some success. The Rangers overall, I don't think they're really getting what they want to out of their offense quite yet either.
Yeah, I agree. I think I I don't know if, and this pains me to say, I don't know if Berger makes it back up to the big leagues. Um, I haven't seen much out of him that I like this year, besides those 3 home runs. I think there's a reason you send down a player like that, and I mean, there's always a chance, like Carter had said, you send down Torque, Torque comes back up, but Torque is also significantly younger.
Yeah,
So
I did not realize he was 29. I thought he was like 24, 25. I was mistaken there.
yeah,
That does change things a little bit there. Whoopsies.
Berger's Berger's got a few years on him, but I don't see him coming back in 2025.
I think he'll be back in 2025. I think it's got to happen, but I think he's definitely lost some of that mustard for sure. I mean, you can see in the graphic change here that in the first graphic, he's got the ketchup and the mustard bottle, and in the second graphic, he simply just has the ketchup bottle. So he's lost his
Right.
mustard, he's lost his mojo, and I mean, quite honestly, I had never heard of the Round Rock Express, and it's got to be tough when you're kind of in your prime and you get sent down to the minor league. So as Walt mentions, our thoughts and prayers are with Jake Berger as he looks to navigate his new journey in the minor leagues. Now, what we've all been waiting for here, it's our Rock'em Sock'em Robots matchup of the week between the league commissioner, John, and the league treasurer, Joe. Now, we've been looking forward to this one for a while here. JD even put together a nice YouTube short of this upcoming matchup, so definitely check out our YouTube shorts. So, to get right into it here, and this is a clip that you can see in the short, let's look back to a clip actually from last week where John is taking his dog for a walk in the plains of Wayland, Michigan.
Taking a little morning walk with my dog here. Thinking, man, this is gonna be pretty similar. So next week, would I dog walk Joe?
All right, so Joe, this has to get you pretty fired up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of a shot out of nowhere, for no reason. I think he's scared and he's lashing out, and I get it. I'd be scared too. My biggest takeaway from this clip is, he says he's walking his dog, but he doesn't put the dog on camera. Instead, we have to look at his ugly face. So I just wish that he maybe would have flipped the camera and we could have just heard it instead of had to see that from him.
I don't even know what to say back to that. I feel like we
Shots fired.
gotta let John respond. He should have been on this week's episode.
Well, sometimes you have to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night,
I see now that JD has muted with some uncontrollable laughter, and Carter has as well. We're going to start a mute counter. We're up to a tally of 3 now. So, as all this laughter is going on, why don't we take a look at Joe coming to us live in his Buick Century from the parking lot of Troy Jewelers.
So John decided to change his team name. He thinks he's clever, and that's funny to me. Because he's not. It was a tank top I was wearing, and instead I'm now he is Lenzini sundresses, so that's funny. He's gonna realize what hit him when he loses this week and he can't pick up the pieces. Am I worried? No. not in the slightest. But I'm not going to stoop down to his level of changing my team name because I'm authentic. Kerry Bonds lives in me. So, John, get ready.
All right, so in this clip, we see Joe talking about John's team name change. And Joe, you directly quote here, "I'm not going to stoop down to his level on changing my team name because I'm authentic." And you've stuck with your name of Kerry Bonds loud and proud.
Yeah, I always will. I think Kerry is carrying my team, if you will. And I see that continuing on. Changing your name to try and get under someone's skin is really just childish. And I expected more out of my opponent, but I guess I'm not going to get it.
Joe, I'm sure you're left thinking, what would Kerry do?
Always. And as
I think he
Kerry,
would do what you did in not changing your name.
exactly, as Kerry rounds the bases after a home run, and he points up to the good God. Um, I chose to live like Kerry, in this moment.
I mean, this is your story, this is your song, so, I definitely understand that. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it shows that Joe is very humble and he's not going to stoop down to John's level, like he mentions here. I think it keeps it very classy. And, I do love to see just the general beef that's going on between these two. Beef. And I mean, people think that, that they're just a couple of competitors in a fantasy league, but this rivalry runs much deeper than just this league.
Yeah, I think right out of the gate when me and John had met, it was a battle, a battle of two alphas, or should I say, an alpha in myself and a beta in him. Um, and I think I will win every single time.
We're up to a 5 count on the mute tally now. While the fellows are laughing once again, why don't you enjoy a nice, almost 2-minute clip from John as he's enjoying yet another walk.
Good afternoon, boys. It's the Commissioner here, enjoying another nice walk. Unfortunately, this time I'm walking to pick up my car from Discount Tire. This weekend I had the fun privilege of driving over a nail on the highway. Went right over the middle of the tire, which is the exact spot you want it to be, so they can quick plug it, fix it, you're on your way, $0 out of pocket. Went to Discount Tire at about 8 o'clock this morning. Found out quickly I'll be dropping $1,000 on new tires. So that's fun, $1,000 out of the pocket. Had me down a little bit this morning, not gonna lie. Then I remembered, got a nice matchup coming this week. Detroit Mariners versus Kerry Bonds, or, I think more affectionately known as Lenzini Sundresses versus the Wishy Coulds. What I mean by that is, Kerry Bonds' team is filled of a bunch of players that wish they were something else. Devers wishes he was Jose Ramirez. Cade Smith wishes he was Emmanuel Clase. Garrett Crochet wishes he was the Cy Young winner. But nope, that's Scooble. Torque wishes he could forget the last 3 years existed on his baseball reference page. Elliot Ramos, that dude wishes people knew he existed and wasn't just some random computer-generated player. And last but not least, Joe himself wishes that he didn't lose by 120 points to get eliminated in the playoffs last year by the Detroit Mariners. Should be a great week for me, not for Joe. It's going to be a long one.
All right, some tough luck on John's side. He gets the nail in his tire, then finds out he's got to get all new tires. He's down $1,000, and that's just not the luck that you want heading into a matchup against a really solid team, right, Joe?
Yeah, and I wish him luck with getting that tire fixed. I myself have had tire problems. I know it can be a pain. So hope he gets everything figured out with that. And good to see my competitor getting out and enjoying the weather. Good for him. Glad to see him. I'm enjoying it.
Now, yeah, I mean, I think you guys have a lot in common too. Like, and this is, I think, one of the reasons why you guys are big rivals. One, you guys both love baseball. Two, you love the Tigers. Three, you both had tire problems, car problems in the past. And four, you both enjoy taking walks around your neighborhood.
Exactly. Exactly. I think me and John are very similar when it comes to a lot of things. Um, Very different when it comes to others, such as humbleness or things like that.
Now, I will say too, I think that you guys have some very different takes on just the game of baseball and how you manage your fantasy team overall.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to speak too much to how he handles his team. I'll let him do that, somewhere down the line here. I do a lot of gut feelings when I am setting my lineup. If I think a player's going to have a good day, I'll throw him in there. Does it work out every time? Definitely not. But I have seen some success with it, so I'm gonna continue to rock that and hope it carries me to a win this week.
We'll definitely have our eyes on it. This is definitely the number one matchup to watch out for if you are in the league. It should be a good one. I think it's going to be a tight one too. Now, interestingly enough, John mentioned several players making comparisons. You know, I want to get your thoughts here. He says, Devers wishes he was J Ram. Cade Smith wishes he was Class A. Crochet wishes he was Cy Scoob. Torque wishes his baseball reference page didn't even exist from the last 3 years. He calls Heliot Ramos a AI generated player, some kind of computer generated player, something like that. And then he also throws more shade at you, Joe, saying that he wishes that he mentions the matchup last year, saying that you wish that you didn't lose by 120 points to get eliminated in the playoffs.
He has me dead to rights on that last one. He's right. He did beat me by 120 points last year, but are we really a team that's gonna look towards the past? No, definitely not. We're looking towards the future. We are looking how we can improve, make changes, and turn it around. Um, just touching on some things he said here. Devers wishes he was J Ram. Um, so Devers is ranked 20 in our league. J Ram is ranked 66. Leo, which one is closer to number one?
I think that would be Rafi Devers.
That is correct. 20 is closer to one. Um, Cade Smith, he mentions, wants to be Class A. Cade Smith is ranked 320. Class A is ranked 335. Carter, which one is closer to one?
Smith.
That is correct. Cade Smith. Crochet is 85. Scooble is 133. JD, which one is closer to one?
Crochet.
There we
I
go.
see where
We're
you're
3 for
going with
3 on the
this.
questions. And he says, Pork wishes that his last 3 years of baseball reference page could be forgotten. That's fine. What's he doing this year, though? He is hitting the cover off the ball. Torque is ranked 15, while his first baseman, Christian Walker, ranked 164. Yikes, if you ask me. And Ramos, being an AI generated player, Ramos is ranked 58, and he's younger than all of John's outfielders. I think it's a little weird that he's calling out players that are doing better in most categories than his own team. Kind of a sad sack move, if you ask me.
Finish him.
Great points, Joe. Great points.
I love
the
the
way you took that.
philosophy.
Yeah.
looking into the present and future, not the past. I love that philosophy.
If you gave me those names, I mean, I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
He's a numbers guy. He's an accountant.
Right.
He's a numbers guy. I think it just proves that he's very intelligent and he thinks at a high level.
Stephen Hawking is proud of your numbers, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate
I'll
that.
let you know.
That means the most to me.
May Kerry be with you.
He will be with him.
I love it. Some fantastic matchups to look ahead to this week, and we will be sure to update you in episode 9, which may or may not be sponsored by another Tigers great next week. So definitely stay tuned for episode 9, and we appreciate all of our listeners. Now, as we look to close out this week's episode, are there any last-minute thought-provoking statements or shout-outs? We'll start with Joe.
Yeah, I just got 2 quick ones here. The first one, just want to give a shout out to the Kerry Bonds fantasy team here. We need a good week out of you boys. I believe in all of you, and we're gonna pull through easy on this week. The second shout out I want to give is to my father, Bob Lanzini. He is retiring. His last day of work is May 9th. So on Friday, he will officially be retired. So shout out, Bob.
Let's go. Congrats to Bob. That's awesome.
Congratulations,
Happy
Bob.
retirement. That's great.
That's awesome.
All right, JD, what do you got?
I got a few things, so allow me some time, gentlemen. Number one, I actually would like to shout out Joe, following up on a hot take he had a few weeks ago, talking about the A's making the playoffs, and technically they are currently a playoff team in the wild card race, so be interesting to see how that plays out. I also like to shout out a Brewers fan who caught a Peaker Armstrong home run and threw it back, and that was a funny clip, and just made my week, I think.
That is a funny one.
That was an awesome clip.
That was great. And then lastly, but certainly not least, I'd like to just apologize to Colt Keith. So if you just give me some time here, I'm just gonna, dear Mr. Colt Keith, you'll probably never see this or care, but I just wanted to formally apologize for not believing in you. I admit to dropping you from my fantasy team on Monday for Gavin Lux. This was not a personal decision, but one of business. Although it is one that I regret now. I was facing Riztopia this week, and I was unsure if I was going to win or not, and I was unsure of your playing time going forward. Due to Torque raking and Glaber at second base, I just wanted to stay undefeated, and I can now say I should have and could have, and you could have been a part of it. I can only hope that somehow, even though there's probably a 0% chance that I jinxed you into hitting 3 bombs this week. I don't know if I will ever doubt you again the rest of your career, and if I do, then shame on me. I wish you the best of luck with the barrel-aged dry guys who just picked you up, and I hope you continue your success with the Tigers this season, except whenever I face Tom next. So, sincerely, an imperfect fan, JD.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, maybe we can hope Colt Keith kind of goes off after this week. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
It takes a big man to make that apology, so proud of you.
Yeah.
I'd like to shout out a Tiger myself, the Tigers' leader in WAR. He's actually tied for the lead with Tarek Skubal. That is Mr. Javi Baez. Got the jersey in the back here. Mr. number 28, the shortstop, the third baseman, the center fielder, question mark? Yes. Javi Baez looks like a gold glover out in center field, and he is doing a nice job hitting the ball. He's added a couple home runs to that ledger now. I mentioned him a few weeks ago, and at that point he did not have any home runs, and then he ended up hitting one the next day. So he's got 3 home runs now. He's hitting 309, and it's been quite the turnaround for Javi Baez. I'd also like to give a shout out to Tom. He hooked me up with some Easter presents, which I just received this weekend, to add to the Matt Vierling collection. We've got the Diamante. We've got the purple. Nice little sand glitter refractor there, numbered to 250. And finally, we've got the green rainbow parallel, numbered to 99.
No way.
I'd also like to shout out Tom and also my mother-in-law Karen for hooking me up with a player's bobblehead that Tom actually traded to Carter. That is the Triple Crown Cy Young Gold Glove winner Chris Sale. So pretty cool. Got the Triple Crown. He's got the crown on. They show the Gold Glove award and the Cy Young in hand there. So a triple award Chris Sale bobblehead, which they secured from the Braves game for me. So I do appreciate those nice tokens.
I'm gonna have to trade you bobbleheads. I got some trade bait here.
Dan Dickerson, that's a good one.
Well, that's awesome. You got those cards and everything for Easter. That's sick.
Definitely. What do you got, Carter?
Oh, if we're sticking to baseball shout outs, I guess I'll give Matt Olson a shout out tonight. He got me a home run. Pretty frustrated with him last year. I called him the walk king. All he seemed to do is just walk instead of hitting the ball. So I'm glad at the beginning of the season here, he's kind of hitting the ball a little finally instead of just walking the bases. So thank you, Matt Olson.
Nice. Well, folks, that is going to do it for episode 8. Again, we'd like to thank 4-time All-Star Justin Upton for being the face of today's episode. And if you're asking yourself questions such as, will Walt dethrone JD and hand him his first loss of the season? Will either Cade or Justice actually pick up a win this week? A tie is always possible. And who will come out on top in this Rock'em Sock'em Robot Smackdown between League Commissioner John and League Treasurer Joe? And finally, will Carter provide a State of the Union on the American League East's worst team, the Baltimore Orioles, in another Orioles outlook? Quite honestly, I'm not sure. So stay tuned and find out all of these things and more in episode 9, which will air next week. But in the meantime, thank you to everyone for tuning in, and never stop chasing your little big league dreams.